everyone, Project Brother, or known as Project Riptide now, is back with another video. It's been a while since I had made one. As we all know, Saint-14 is back. Now that it's been almost, what, 2 weeks almost now that the season of Dawn has started. This is completely 100% unscripted. I'm going to go with the best of my knowledge of what I believe, how we were able to bring Saint-14 back, and what led all the, or should I say, what led all the up to us bringing Saint-14 back. Now, I won't lie, when I first found out that Saint-14 was coming back, I was thinking, oh hey, like, we're just bringing from another timeline, because like, hey, like, there's multiple timelines in the Infinite Force, and that's what I was thinking. And boy, does Saint-14 love the headbutt stuff. And his armor is badass looking. And I'm not gonna lie, while I was doing this for the third time, that Minotaur looked at what he did, he was like, wait, what? I realized that he was done for. But it was pretty amazing, and the lore on the Perfect Paradox, like, I looked at it before and never really thought of anything about it, but we will literally get right into that on, because it will help explain how all this started, how we came to be. Okay, so let's go into the Osiris Perfect Paradox lore. A tale that's different from the rest. I never found Osiris, but I killed enough Vex to end a war, and they in turn struck a fatal blow. They completed a mind with the sole function to drain the light from me. It worked very well. Don't worry, not that you worry much. It took them centuries to build, key to the unique frequency of my light, and I sit atop its shattered husk. I mourn that I will never reach the heights you have. To me, you represent everything a guardian can become. Yours is a thriving city, so different from mine. My whole 14th life, I fought to make a city yours. I never finished. All I have left is this weapon. The Cryptarchs say you crafted it yourself, built it out of scraps and light, and sheer will inside the Infinite Forge. I'll make sure it finds its way back to you. When you gave it to me, I swore I would make it my duty to follow your example. I'm still trying. Saint-14. That is a crucial key information right there, because when we go into the season of the Dawn, Perfect Paradox, it says the exact same thing. I was thinking like maybe the lore might be a little different and everything, but how did we get into the Infinite Force in the first place? As we know, as we venture into the Infinite Force for the very first time, like, that's when things kind of start to change just a little bit, but not by greatly. And our ghost goes into details here on what's going on
The
just a
shotgun you
little bit.
crafted in the Infinite Forge is reacting to the sundial. An onboard transponder is broadcasting coordinates. A path through the sundial, crossing 2 time periods. The prophecy blueprint you used to create the perfect paradox must have included this broadcast. If you can open up the initial chamber, I can align us to the first time period the broadcast is referencing.
Okay, so as you read there, like, Perfect Paradox was sending out a distress signal. Um, and what was interesting a bit about this is that Osiris had thousands upon thousands of copies of himself, and he's gone through multiple timelines, along with thousands of them going through our timeline, to where he could try to find a way to save Saint-14. He was saying that was the whole purpose of creating the sundial, was to save an old friend, which would have been Saint-14. Um, but he never found them, and never came across a distress signal. And yet, here we are. We craft the perfect paradox, and you know, all of a sudden, like, there's nothing really going on. And then, when the beginning of the quest missions, before you go to the corridor course of time, we go and get a fragment of something that's fading in and out of our hand. I don't remember the name of it. I don't have a video of that gameplay, but we go throughout all the steps. We recraft it and it turned out to be the perfect paradox. And when we created it, that one, it reached out to the one that was back in the past
We
that
never should
Saint-14
have
had
come.
currently at the time. And then, so we take what the
Another
perfect
minute and
paradox
they
that
would have
we have,
eaten my ghost.
we go back in
Fallen
time
are
during the
monsters.
Dark Ages versus right now when
Sabar,
we go and rescue
are you fit to fight,
Saint-14.
Titan?
And then after we talk to him for a while,
I
we
was
go and hand
supposed to
him the
protect these
perfect
people.
paradox that
I
we have
should be
crafted.
dead.
You're stronger than you think.
Not strong enough.
Another thing that we do is that we kind of also start, this is where we start messing with the timeline, is that not just when we gave him the perfect paradox, it's when we showed him
What is this?
what the last safe
The
city can
perfect paradox,
become.
built by my guardian out of spare
That's
parts
when it
and light
really
and
started
sheer
to
will to
interfere
aid
with
you.
the timeline and start changing,
It's
in my
beautiful.
opinion. Now, also, like, how could all this also be happening as well with us interfering with the timeline? Because if you think about it,
I
when we
probably
go
shouldn't be showing you this, but when has that ever stopped
into
us?
back in D1, when we go into the Vault of
This
Glass,
is the
we killed
last safe
Athan,
city of
which was a
humanity.
Time Lord,
Hundreds of years from
and the
now.
Oracles and the Templar, which were all
During the
known
day,
for
there are children
controlling
laughing in
time,
the
and we
streets.
made our own fate. Like,
When night falls, the
Guardians have
people sleep in
died
their
in
homes,
the Vault of
not
Glass,
against the
and then the
walls,
ones have
weapons in
become
hand, like the
part
early days.
Vex, or their weapons have became a
Like my
artificial
people.
intelligent
These
weapon.
are your people, Saint.
But
Their descendants.
you
If you quit the fight,
defy
maybe you'll live
the
forever.
Vex and
Your
they in
ghost
the
will
Vault of
protect you no
Glass, and
matter
I
what.
think that's when we
But
went
this
and made
last
our own
city
fate.
might
Or
never
should I say,
happen.
you made your own fate, since Destiny is all
Everything
about
I've ever built has
you're a
died.
guardian.
I've buried
You.
most of the people I've met.
We made our own fate, and that's kind of
But I
started
believe
messing around with some things.
not anymore.
But after our ghost shows Saint
The entire
14 what
timeline.
could be of the future,
Querying Saint
he
14.
goes and current Saint 14 records
Records
and
state
found
he
out
was a
that
former commander of the Tower.
he still
Then
proceeded
from a
on
pilot mission to Mercury in
with
search
what
of
he
tapes
was
out of Warlock
doing.
Osiris. Well, those are the big beats. Timeline intact. Good job, Saint. But our trip's not over. That broadcast I picked off the perfect paradox
There's a here,
marked one more set of
another set
coordinates
of
within the
coordinates
sundial.
within the sundial. Then Osiris here grants with fire in his eyes. That was his first offer of mission for the speaker. The fallen were the House of Rain, the lowest of their clan. House Dusk took their colors during the Red War. He shakes his head. You mentioned two coordinate broadcasts from the perfect paradox. He nods eagerly at you, but his mind clears. Alpha, the sundial spent. It only needs time to recharge, and he will alert us when he is ready. Arsaris greets you with a curl nod as he excited to see you. I'm still calculating the effects of your trip and the distant pad on the timeline. He says, unlike the changes the Red Legion are attempting to make, which were contained to Mercury, he believes that our actions had a lasting impact on the solar system at large, and that goes back into what I was saying. What we did greatly changed on how our timeline is going to be. But also don't forget the fact that we also killed the Undying Mind had also greatly influenced our future, and I think that's where it all began, because the Undying Mind also helps controls the timeline. Because remember back in D1, we killed it, but it came back. The Vex were able to bring it back to life in our timeline. So since we killed it in the season of the Undying, we killed the Undying Mind, not just in our timeline for permanent, but we also killed thousands upon thousands of others in alternate timelines as well. And then we go, Osiris has us go out to find the signal. As we go to find the signal, we end up finding out that it's Saint 14's ghost.
I've killed enough of you to end the war. And you took my light. I guess that makes us even. What are you waiting for? Last words? Finish it, you cowards.
Asai's eyes narrows as he takes the ghost shell from you. The words you heard when you found this were Saint's last. The warlock. I've looked everywhere in the network for his ghost. There was never a distress signal, there was nothing. Your trip to the past must have changed an element I've never took into account. He shakes his head. The sundial is nearly ready for another jump, but is hungry for a ride. And of course you go continue on to do some quest steps and everything. But like I said, like everything was normal at first. The reason why there was no distress signal is I believe is because the undying mind was still alive and strong, and you know the story from there. But of course, since we killed it, that's when things start changing, and that's when we were actually able to go into the past. And also, like
I
Bungie
said
said,
nothing
that
to
the
you
the
anymore.
world of Destiny is going to start evolving. It's going to be
And you
changing. And of
join
course,
my
like everything
light.
has a set of action. Like I
Makes
kind of
us
wish it was
even.
more like, hey, you have the option to choose to do this or
What
this,
are you waiting
and
for?
that's
Last
kind of it.
words?
And they
Finish
started
it,
this
you
feature
cowards.
in, I believe, the season of the Joker,
Guardian,
where
you're
you
back.
had the choice to side with the
Just in
Vanguard
time.
or side with
I
the
was
Joker.
about to send
I
my
believe that's
ghost
when this
away,
all started.
but I'm
We started
afraid that
making the
Murder
choices.
Mine has
And as you
taken
see
my light.
here, like we
But now
went
that
back
you're here,
into
these facts are
near our
yours.
past timeline just before Saint 14 died, and he gets lost his life, gets captured by the Vex. We go
Converging!
to free him for the monitoring mind, and you know,
I
like
can
all that
feel
is
the
that.
light in my bones.
Now I did have one
Murder Mine!
person in
Time
my
to
clan
die!
who kind of asked me a question and everything. He was kind of asking like how this was possible, and this is what I told him. According to the story, the Lord that was found when we went back on the first Saint
It's
mission,
been
that
a
was Saint
long
14, was
time,
still
my
young,
friend.
and because of what he
I've
did,
chased
according
your
to
memory
Osiris,
for
we
centuries.
changed the future
You
because
should
there
go
was
now.
now a
Those who could
distress
kill me
signal
are
that
dead.
wasn't there
You've
before.
made
And
sure
we
of that.
followed it, found Saint
And what if the
14's
Vex take
dead
your light
ghost
again?
at the Vex capture
Impossible.
after
It
um
cost them everything to build the martyr mine.
and after
When
charging the
you
sundial, we
crushed
went
it,
back in
they
time
were doomed.
just before the
You want
Vex
us to pay
captured
you?
Saint. We
You'll be
prevented
stuck
him
here for
from
years.
dying.
You've both done plenty. Just
Um,
open the
with
infinite forest
the
gate.
Vex captured Saint,
I'll
we
meet you the
prevented them
long
from
way
stealing
around,
his
at
light
the
and killing
entrance.
his ghost, therefore changing our timeline completely. Even though Osiris said we have done what he could not do, which was saving
What?
Saint
A few
14
more
in our
years of
timeline.
fighting Vax!
Um, now to go and kind of wonder like how do we know like this is our timeline. Well, it's kind of simple because Saval's impressed with what we have done. Our core warns us that what we have done will have actions against it, and she warns us like just don't make it a habit. But she knows like when those actions do come to back to bite us, and then we will do everything we can to fix that as well. Then of course even Ashimir like gives us a bit of a warning. He says every action you take has a consequence, and then he says you must be prepared to accept those consequences when they arrive. So even Akor and Asher are confirming that like yes, we have gone back into our timelines past, and we have rescued Saint 14 from being killed, which was pretty amazing when I think about it and everything. But that's pretty much all I have. I can think of, and once again, like this whole deal of what Bungie is doing with Destiny is pretty amazing in my opinion, and I think it's gonna.
If we did
I'm
this
kind of
right,
looking
Saint
forward
should
to
be waiting
what
for us in the
more
forest.
actions that they're
Let's hope
going to
he's still
be
alive.
coming out with. There's rumors that people are saying like, hey, this means that we might be able to get K6 back, but that's a huge iffy spot right there.
Didn't think it was possible. I had given up. I spent lifetimes looking for Saint. A dozen of my echoes lost their minds before I retired them. Part of me wishes you were there to see it, to feel what I felt when I surrendered. But then where would we be? What you've done today, this is amazing. Saint will need your help. The world has changed since he last walked free. In his youth, he talked often about the Guardian who inspired him. I should have guessed it would be you.
As see here, he says, "You saved the lesson of the city today. A friend of mine, and his eyes hardened, but I'm afraid I still need your help." Well, that's all I got for on this video, people. Tell me what you think in the comments. Give it a like, wherever you want. I don't care.